The first shout hit the air before anyone understood what was happening. A chair scraped loudly across the tiled floor as an elderly black woman stumbled backward, trying to regain her balance while clutching her handbag close to her chest. The bank lobby froze. People turned. A few whispered. A few watched with amusement. A few looked away as if chaos didn't concern them. But the sound that started it all came from the manager's voice, sharp enough to cut across the entire hall. "I said you're blocking the line. Move aside. You're wasting everyone's time." The manager, Mr. Harlan, stood tall behind the counter glass but leaned forward with irritation carved into his face. His voice rolled over the customers like thunder. And in front of him stood Mama Ruth, stunned, her gentle eyes wide, fingers trembling as she held her withdrawal slip. I'm only trying to get my money, sir," she said softly. Her voice was warm and tired. She was dressed simply, in a faded blue dress and flat shoes. A headscarf wrapped around her thinning grey hair. She looked like someone's grandmother. Someone's caregiver. Someone who woke up before sunrise to pray, cook, and give more than she took. But to the manager, she looked like a nuisance. "Your documents don't match. I can't help you." "Next." Harlan barked, waving his hand aggressively. "But sir, this is my name. This is my account. I just need to withdraw. Are you deaf?" I said next. The teller beside him shifted uncomfortably but kept her head down, pretending to focus on her computer. The security guard by the door scratched his chin and looked away. A few customers rolled their eyes. A few chuckles rolled through the line, careless, cruel, the kind that prick wounds deeper. Mama Ruth swallowed the sting in her throat. She had come to withdraw money for her grandson's school fees. She had promised the boy she would bring the money today. She had walked 30 minutes to reach this bank because the bus was too crowded. A wave of gasps rippled through the room. Mama Ruth stepped back, fear creeping into her expression. A shameful heat crawled up her neck. The room felt too loud, too bright, too hostile. A few phones went up. People started recording. "Look at her," someone whispered behind her. "Always these old people causing problems. Probably doesn't have any money," another muttered. Mama Ruth's lips pressed together as she held her dignity with both hands, reminding herself not to cry, not here, not in front of strangers who saw her as nothing. But far across the lobby, in one of the glass-enclosed VIP sections, someone else had been watching long before she realized there were eyes on her. A man in a black tailored suit sat still, expression unreadable. His hair was slicked back with precision, his jawline sharp, his presence quietly heavy. Two men in darker suits stood behind him like shadows. No one dared enter the VIP area unless invited. Even the staff avoided lingering near it for too long. But the man in the suit, Dante Marino, did not blink as the scene unfolded. He saw Mama Ruth's trembling hands. He heard the manager's voice slice through her dignity. He watched the customers mock her. And something inside him tightened. Mama Ruth didn't know him, not in this life phase. But he knew her. Years ago, when he was a runaway teenager hiding from danger, hungry and trembling, she had given him food. She had given him shelter on her porch for a night. She had prayed for him. She had handed him warm bread and said, "The world is cruel, child. But you don't have to be." He never forgot. Now he watched the woman who once saved him being treated like dirt. He leaned forward subtly, eyes narrowing. And at that moment, the manager's final insult dropped like a hammer. "You can't possibly have enough money to make any large withdrawal," Harlan spat. "People like you shouldn't even be here. You are wasting everyone's time." A murmur swept the room. Some were shocked. Some were sad. "You deserve what you earn," the manager sneered. "And right now, you've earned yourself a security escort." The security guard approached, towering, his voice hesitant but firm. Please follow me." Mama Ruth shook her head, pleading. "No, please, just check again. I need the money today. Please." The manager folded his arms. "You heard him. Leave." Her heart sank. Tears burned her eyes but she refused to let them fall. She clutched her handbag to her chest, breathing shakily. From the VIP section, Dante rose slowly to his feet. One of his bodyguards whispered, "Boss." He didn't answer. He simply began walking toward the situation, each step deliberate, heavy, powerful enough to shift the air in the room. Customers moved back without knowing why. The atmosphere changed, something dangerous, cold, and silent creeping into the edges of the room. Mama Ruth didn't notice him yet. She was too focused on her humiliation, on the sting in her chest, on the burning in her eyes. The security guard reached out as if to touch her arm. And Dante's voice cut through the room like a knife. "That won't be necessary." Every head turned. The manager blinked. "Sir, this is a bank matter. Please step aside." Dante kept walking, eyes locked on Mama Ruth. "A matter involving her is now a matter involving me." Harlan scoffed. "And who exactly are you?" Dante stopped right in front of him, leaned in slightly, and said quietly, "Someone you should have treated with respect." The lobby fell dead silent. Harlan frowned, senses finally catching the danger in the air. "Sir, I don't know who you think you are, but we follow procedures." "No," Dante said calmly. "What you follow is prejudice. And what you lack is manners." A few people gasped. Someone whispered, is that him?" Rumors rushed through the crowd like wind through dry leaves. Mama Ruth looked up at Dante, confused, emotional, unsure why this stranger was defending her. He turned to her with a softness she didn't expect. "Mama, it's me." She stared at him. I don't understand." "You will," he said quietly. "But first, let's get you treated properly." Before Harlan could respond, Dante pointed at the teller's computer. "Pull up her account," he commanded. Harlan opened his mouth to argue. Dante's bodyguard stepped forward. Harlan closed his mouth. The teller typed nervously. Her eyes widened. Her jaw dropped. Her voice trembled. "Sir, her account, she swallowed. It has a very large balance." Gasps erupted. Harlan leaned over the screen. His face drained of color. "What? How?" Dante stepped closer, voice low and deadly calm. "Now you understand your mistake." The manager stared at the screen as if his eyes were betraying him. His jaw tightened, and a bead of sweat rolled down his temple. He swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the many eyes watching him. "This can't be right," he muttered, almost to himself. "It's right," Dante replied calmly. His tone held no need for volume. Authority dripped from every syllable. "Now apologize to the woman you publicly humiliated." The room went still. The air thickened. You could almost hear the tension humming beneath the murmurs. Mama Ruth looked between the two men, confusion clouding her face. She had no idea what was happening or why this stranger was intervening with such force. Harlan forced a strained smile that didn't reach his eyes. There must have been a misunderstanding." "No," Dante snapped, turning his gaze on him. "A misunderstanding is when someone trips. This was deliberate disrespect. Fix it." The teller looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. The security guard shifted uncomfortably, clearly regretting his earlier participation. Harlan inhaled sharply, then turned to Mama Ruth. "I apologize. That was unprofessional of me." Mama Ruth blinked, still trying to process everything. I accept your apology," she whispered, though her voice shook from all she had endured. Her words were gentle, but Dante's expression hardened. He knew kindness was her nature, even when she was wronged. But he wasn't finished. "Manager," he said, "you will personally handle her transaction. And you'll do it with respect." "Yes, sir," the manager replied quickly. Customers whispered, "Who is this guy? He's dangerous. You can just feel it. Is he the one they say owns half the city? I heard he's connected to the Marino family. My God, she saved the wrong person or the right one." A few people put their phones down, afraid to be caught recording someone like him. Harlan cleared his throat, motioning for Mama Ruth to come closer. She took a shaky step toward the counter. But before she reached it, Dante placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Mama," he said softly, "let me tell you something." She turned to him, her eyes filled with uncertainty and exhaustion. "I know you don't remember me right now. But years ago, when I had no home, no food, no identity, you found me near your porch, shivering. You gave me soup. You let me sleep on that old wooden bench outside your house. You prayed for me. You didn't ask where I came from. You didn't judge me. You just cared. Her eyebrows lifted slowly, eyes widening with disbelief. My God, that was you? Dante nodded once. Yes, Mama. And I meant it when I said I'd never forget you. Emotion welled in her chest. Tears finally escaped, trailing slowly down her wrinkled cheeks. Child, you survived. You became someone. A soft smile touched his lips. Because you treated me like I was worth saving. People in the lobby looked on with deepening astonishment. Some placed hands over their hearts. Others turned away, overwhelmed by the tenderness of the moment. Harlan stiffened. Everything he had done replayed in his mind with new horror. He had insulted a woman whom a man like Dante respected. He felt his career slipping through his fingers. Dante gently guided Mama Ruth to the counter. Tell him the amount you need, he said. Mama Ruth sniffed and wiped her tears with her sleeve. I need 40,000. For my grandson's school fees. The manager nodded frantically. Of course. Absolutely. I'll handle it personally. He typed with speed that almost seemed comical. Fear accelerated every movement. Within seconds, he printed the receipt and handed her the cash, neatly stacked, sealed, and wrapped with care. There you go, he said, voice trembling. Mama Ruth accepted the envelope slowly. She looked at it, then at him, and said, thank you. The words were simple, sincere, and painfully gentle. But Harlan knew the entire room judged him for what had happened. Dante lowered his voice to the manager. She walks in here again, and you treat her like royalty. Understood? Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. And if I hear even a whisper of disrespect to vulnerable customers in this bank, Dante added, we will have a much more complicated conversation. Harlan's legs nearly buckled. Understood. The bank was silent again, not from tension but from the aftermath of justice being delivered right in front of them. Dante turned back to Mama Ruth. You shouldn't walk home alone today. What? Oh, no, no. I've walked that route for years. I'm fine. He shook his head. Not anymore. From now on, you'll never have to walk alone unless you want to. One of his bodyguards stepped forward respectfully. We can escort you, Mama Ruth looked alarmed. Escort me? I'm just an old woman going home. Dante stepped closer, lowering his voice. Not just an old woman. You are the woman who saved me. That matters. People recorded again, but this time, with admiration. The story unfolding before them was too powerful not to share. Dante reached into his suit and pulled out a small black card embossed in gold with a symbol that sent tiny shivers across the room. He placed it gently in her hand. You say this card at any Merino business, and they'll help you. Groceries, repairs, bills, anything. And if anyone ever mistreats you again, you show them this. Mama Ruth held the card like it was made of fragile glass. She saw the crest. She recognized the name. And her heart pounded. Dante. I can't accept this. It's not a gift, he replied. It's repayment. But I didn't do anything special, she whispered. You saved me, he said. That's more than special. Behind them, people wiped tears discreetly. Even the teller sniffed. For the first time since entering the bank, Mama Ruth smiled. But just as she prepared to thank him, another voice broke the air. Sir, the teller said carefully. Dante turned slowly. There's a policy, regarding large accounts. If she wants VIP status, we need documentation. The teller said it gently, respectfully, almost apologetically. Harlan shot her a sharp glare as if begging her to stop talking. She ignored him. Dante raised an eyebrow. She needs VIP status, HM? Well, technically, yes. He looked at the manager like a man considering a chess move. Then handle it, Dante said. Right now. The teller blinked. Right now? Yes, Dante said calmly. Right now. Mama Ruth looked bewildered. Dante, what is VIP status? He smiled. It means no one will ever speak to you the way he did again. The teller nodded quickly and stood up. Yes, sir. I'll get the documents. Harlan's face tightened. He knew what VIP status meant. Better treatment. Faster service. A dedicated line. Someone escorting her whenever she walked in. It meant the bank would treat her like a long-term investor, not an inconvenience. And it meant his earlier behavior would become even more embarrassing once headquarters reviewed the promotion request. He swallowed, forcing his expression into something neutral. If you'll follow me to the executive office, we can process everything quietly. Dante gave him a single cold glance. Quietly? No. You humiliated her in front of everyone. You'll fix it in front of everyone. The bank fell silent again. Harlan hesitated, then nodded stiffly. Of course. The teller returned with forms. She placed them on the counter and handed a pen to Mama Ruth, who held it with trembling fingers. I've never signed these kinds of things, Mama Ruth murmured, looking overwhelmed. Dante stepped closer, speaking gently. I'll help you. Just write your name the same way you always do. Everything else, they'll handle. The teller smiled warmly at her, genuinely this time. You're going to get priority service from now on. No more standing in long lines. Mama Ruth blinked, unsure she deserved all of this. Lord have mercy, this is too much. It's exactly what you deserve, Dante replied. He said it with such conviction that she felt her heart swell. She slowly filled out the required sections. The teller processed each page with urgency. Harlan stood by silently, hands clasped together, trying not to look as humiliated as he felt. Customers continued whispering. Imagine treating someone like that, only to find out she's connected to him. That manager is finished. She's lucky. A woman like her deserves kindness. What kind of life did she live to earn protection from someone like him? No matter where you stood in the lobby, you could feel the shift, the atmosphere turning from judgment to admiration, from mockery to respect. By the time she signed the last document, almost 20 minutes had passed. The teller smiled and handed her a sleek gold VIP card. Welcome to premium banking, Mama Ruth stared at the card as though it were a miracle. She pressed it to her chest and whispered, Thank you, Lord. Dante looked at her softly. You're good, Mama? Yes. Her voice was thick with emotion. I'm more than good. Dante gestured to his bodyguards. Escort her home. Make sure she carries nothing heavy. The bodyguards nodded. Mama Ruth held up her hand. Wait, Dante, before I go. I need to ask something. He stepped closer, attentive. What is it? Are you safe? She asked. The question hit harder than any accusation, harder than any interrogation, harder than any threat. It wasn't suspicion or fear. It was concern. Genuine concern. He didn't expect it. A low exhale left him. I'm alive, Mama. I'm trying to stay on the good side of the world. She looked at him with eyes that saw through him. Dante, you're walking in dark places. He didn't deny it. I know, he whispered. You don't have to, she said softly. His jaw tightened, but his eyes softened. Maybe not forever. The room was silent again. Everyone watched them with a strange mix of awe and confusion. A mafia boss being mothered publicly by an old woman? It didn't make sense. And yet somehow, it made perfect sense. Mama Ruth gently touched his arm. I'm proud you're alive. I'm proud you remember kindness. That tells me there's still light in you. Dante swallowed, fighting emotion. I owe you everything. You owe me nothing, she said. But if you want to repay me, do one thing for me. What? Stop hurting people. Dante's eyes flickered. The bank held its breath. Finally, he nodded once. I'll try. She squeezed his hand, accepting that answer even if it wasn't perfect. But then her expression shifted, she frowned slightly. Did you really put money in my account all these years? He nodded. Every month. You helped me survive when I had nothing. I made sure you'd never lack anything again. Mama Ruth covered her mouth with her hand, tears pouring freely now. Oh, Dante. She hugged him. Not a shy, awkward hug. A full embrace, arms wrapped around him like she was holding her own lost child. And despite his reputation, despite his status, despite the three men watching his every move, Dante Marino melted into it quietly, returning the hug with restrained care. Customers wiped their eyes. Harlan looked like he wanted to sink into the ground. After a moment, she pulled back and looked up at him. "Thank you." "No, Mama," he said. "Thank you." The bodyguards gently took her bags while she clutched the envelope of school fees and her new VIP card. She nodded at everyone, dignity fully restored, and allowed herself to be escorted toward the exit. But the peace didn't last long. As she reached the door, one customer muttered loudly enough for the bank to hear, "Well, she's lucky. I wish a Mafia boss would adopt me too." Dante turned his head sharply. The man froze. Dante walked toward him slowly, causing everyone to tense again. When he reached the man, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply said, "She didn't get help because she's lucky. She got help because she's kind. Try it sometime." The man's cheeks flushed as he looked away. Dante turned from him and watched Mama Ruth leave through the glass doors. The moment she stepped outside with his men beside her, he exhaled deeply. But the manager wasn't finished paying for what he'd done. Dante walked back to the counter, casually removing a pair of black gloves from his pocket. Harlan stiffened immediately. "Sir. I apologized. Dante put on the gloves slowly, deliberately, the movement alone making the manager's breath hitch. But instead of touching him, Dante rested his hands on the counter. "You have a problem, manager." Harlan swallowed. "Sir, I understand." "No," Dante cut in. "You don't understand anything. The problem isn't just that you insulted her. It's that you enjoy disrespecting people you think are beneath you." Harlan's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Dante leaned in. "So here's what's going to happen. You will attend a customer service retraining program. Mandatory. Paid for by this branch. And for the next 6 months, you will personally serve every elderly customer who walks in." Harlan's eyes widened. 6 months. "Minimum," Dante replied. "Or I'll request your removal. You can't just." The bodyguard beside him took one step forward. Harlan stopped talking. Dante's expression didn't change. "Clear?" "Crystal clear," the manager whispered. Dante removed his gloves. "Good." He turned toward the exit, leaving everyone staring after him, speechless at what they had witnessed. As he walked past the customers, many stepped aside respectfully. Others whispered his name with fear and gratitude. But before he reached the door, he paused and looked over his shoulder. "And someone better call corporate," he added. "Tell them this branch needs new leadership." Dante walked toward the glass doors, the weight of the bank's silence pressing behind him. Every eye followed him, customers stepped aside instinctively, whispers spreading like wildfire. Mama Ruth stood just outside, holding the envelope of school fees and her new VIP card. Her hands trembled, but this time it wasn't fear, it was disbelief and relief. The humiliation she had endured moments ago now seemed like a distant shadow. One of Dante's bodyguards stepped closer. We can escort you home safely." Mama Ruth shook her head, a faint smile forming. I don't want to trouble anyone." "You're not a trouble," Dante said softly. "I'm making sure nothing like this ever happens again." The envelope felt heavier in her hands than the actual money it contained. It carried dignity restored, respect reclaimed, and a promise that she would never be looked down upon for her age, her appearance, or her gentle nature. She could finally breathe without fear. As they walked down the sidewalk, Dante's voice was low but steady. "You've spent your life caring for others. That matters more than most realize." Mama Ruth looked up at him. "Child, I did what I could. I just tried to help where I could." "You helped someone who remembers," Dante replied. "And I've never forgotten. You showed me kindness when I had nothing. That's why I'm here now." Tears pricked her eyes. For decades, she had lived quietly, helping, giving, praying. And now, someone she had once helped was standing beside her as a protector and friend, ensuring her dignity would never again be questioned. Back at the bank, Harlan and the teller were still stunned. The teller whispered to a colleague, "I never thought I'd see a situation like this. Ever." Harlan could only swallow hard, realizing how badly he had misjudged Mama Ruth and how fully Dante had turned the tables. He had insulted her in public, humiliated her, and now she was being celebrated. The lesson was undeniable, painful, and humiliating for him to accept. Outside, Dante slowed near Mama Ruth's gate. She turned to him, voice shaking. "I still can't believe all of this. Why go so far for me?" He smiled faintly, eyes serious. "Because you once saved me. That act of kindness mattered. And the world should respect someone like you." Mama Ruth pressed the VIP card to her chest, glancing at the envelope of school fees. "I never expected anything like this in my life," she whispered. "You earned it," Dante said softly. "Not through wealth or power, but through your heart." The bodyguards began to move toward her home, and she stepped forward, letting them assist with her bags. I don't know how to thank you," she murmured. "By living with pride," Dante replied. "By knowing no one can take your dignity from you again. That's enough." They paused at her doorstep. Mama Ruth looked at him, tears streaming freely now. "You've changed everything for me. My grandson, my family, you've saved us in ways I can't describe." He nodded solemnly. "Then my job here is done. Just remember, kindness matters, even when no one seems to notice." She opened the gate slowly, turning for one last look at Dante. "I'll never forget you, child." "I'll never forget you either," he said. Mama Ruth stepped inside her home, clutching the envelope and card. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to smile without worry. Outside, Dante walked away, a quiet shadow fading into the city, leaving the bank and its patrons forever marked by the lesson they had just witnessed. Respect and justice, delivered with precision, compassion, and undeniable authority. Back inside the bank, staff whispered about the day's events for hours. Customers shared the story outside, recounting how the elderly woman had been humiliated, only to be defended by someone no one dared cross. It was a tale of courage, justice, and humanity that none would forget. Even Harlan knew his arrogance had been punished and that he would never make the same mistake again. Mama Ruth finally sank into her favorite chair at home, taking a deep breath. The school fees were safe, her dignity restored, and for the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. She looked at her VIP card, then at the envelope, and whispered a prayer of thanks. Not for money, but for the affirmation that kindness, patience, and integrity always leave a mark, sometimes one that changes lives forever. If this story moved you, don't forget to comment below about how you would have reacted in Mama Ruth's place. Like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of courage, justice, and life-changing moments.